Hey everybody, Tom Barnes, stories from the 78. And if you are of a certain age, you went to the mall. Either you loved the mall, hated the mall. Either way, the mall was there and it was a place to shop, pre-Amazon, you know? And did you ever think about living in the mall though? I don't know. 8 artists did though, from Providence, Rhode Island. They decided to set up a secret mall apartment. There's a new documentary out right now. Jesse Eisenberg produced it. And I welcome Jeremy Workman, the director of it. Jeremy, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, Tom. I'm in the secret apartment here, as you see.
I know, I love it. I mean, you know what? I feel like I heard about this growing up, you know, like folklore. I grew up in Chicago, a lot of malls in Chicago, a lot of malls that people didn't like, you know, old, like there's a mall in Chicago called Fort City Mall that used to be the manufacturing facility for the B-52 bombers during World War II, and now it's a mall. So there's a lot of love-hate relationship with malls, and you always hear about this folklore about people living in an apartment, and here you are making a documentary about it. I mean, what's that like to be able to tell this story?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty incredible because I think just echoing what you're saying, like so many people, you know, especially like, you know, from 35, 40 and older, maybe like 30 and older even, they have such like nostalgia for malls. They grew up with malls. They remember fondly like these incredible moments that they experienced there as adolescents. It was like this sort of safe space where they had so much fun. And now they're really lost so much in our cities and suburbs. And this movie kind of taps into that. It taps into that mall nostalgia a little bit. And I think that's so neat. It was such a thrill for me to get to make it because I really felt that while I was making it.
So how did you be able to be part of this story? I mean, you work with an incredible producer, Jesse Eisenberg, and you're directing this whole thing. How did you guys get your hands on this project to want to do this? Because this is, I imagine a lot of people wanted to do this.
Oh, so no doubt. You know, apparently, like I didn't even know this when I went in and started making this, but you know, there was a number of directors, maybe over a dozen, maybe as many as 20 that were trying to make this over the 17 years since it happened. This, of course, is Providence legend. It's Providence folklore, and so many people went to these artists. And, you know, especially the main character, Michael Townsend, our main, you know, instigator, and we're trying to make this movie. And I think I was just sort of at the right time, right place, maybe a little luck, maybe the fact that he had seen my movies really helped and he really liked them. Jesse Eisenberg, who you mentioned, you know, he's been a producer of mine on 2 of my movies, but even at that point, he wasn't really even involved when I kind of went after this story and made a pitch to Michael and the 7 artists. So I was really lucky and privileged to get to make it.
Yeah, and I would imagine that Michael was the only one really associated with, you know, getting busted, if you will, right? He never gave up all of his friends, and they came forward to make this movie. I imagine that was a pivotal point in making this a documentary with a lot of substance to it, to be able to have all these people show all this video and hear them have their accounts of all of this.
No doubt. I think so many people had approached them about making a documentary and really kind of emphasize the kind of the prank aspect of it, you know, this stunt aspect. Well, and don't get me wrong, I love the prank aspect. I am a prankster. I love it. I love all that. But I think what for them, they really felt like the story was a lot broader. It was a lot, it encompassed other artwork they had done. It encompassed a real sort of ethos that they had. And I have a feeling that other directors and other filmmakers who wanted to do it did not approach them with that lens, and that was certainly something that I was interested in. I've made a few movies now about artists and about people doing things that are unconventional, and I was really as much as jazzed about their other work as I was about The Secret Apartment, and that probably went, you know, a real long way in terms of convincing all 8 who were not interested in making a documentary. Literally, they had filmed all this incredible footage and had no interest in it being in a movie.
So what did they film it for? Just for fun back then? To be like, one day we'll look at it like we did when we were kids with our parents, you know, shooting, you know, a bar mitzvah or a graduation or something?
100%. You know, they shot 25 hours of footage when they were in the secret apartment. And as you see in the film, they shot it with this like low-tech early 21st century point and shoot camera that wasn't even really made for video. Yeah, it like fit in an Altoids case. They bought it at Radio Shack for $100, and it shot, for all your listeners and viewers who know video, it shot at 320 by 240, 8 frames a second. So they had no interest in like turning this into a movie. They were just sort of capturing because it was cool, and they were having such a great time experiencing this idea of the secret apartment that they're like, hey, we're going to film this too. You know, it's a little like you hear, you know, Gen Zs and millennials talking about committing to the bit. You know, it's very much like they committed to the bit, like in such a way.
Yeah, I mean, just seeing the footage of them bringing the bricks up the stairs, like that to me, I'm like, it could have gone so wrong in so many different ways. Dropping the brick on somebody's face, you know, somebody coming in and busting you, all of these things. And then the couch, and then the, you know, the hutch, all this stuff that's going up the stairs. It's just crazy to me that they found it. Like, not that it was there necessarily, but they found it, because I'm sure there's weird spaces in buildings all over the world that are negative spaces. But because of what happened to them prior to the building being there, growing up in that area of the city, what was it called? The Eagle's Trap?
Eagle Square.
Eagle Square, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Eagle Square, and having developers come in. It's kind of like the Goonies. Where in the Goonies,
100% it's like the Goonies. You know, it's like this little ragtag team that is, you know, all has little different personalities, and they're like going to try to pull off the greatest heist. And it's sort of a reverse heist. They're not trying to steal anything. They're trying to bring stuff in. And just as you said, they're bringing in gigantic couches and furniture and televisions. And in their grandest act, they're building a wall with 2 tons of cinder block. So it's not just like they, put up a little railing or a little, you know, they put up a little fence or a gate or something. They build a gigantic wall with 4,000 pounds of cinder block. Cinder blocks are heavy too. I don't know if you've lifted one.
No, that's what they make giant governmental buildings out of. Like, they're not going anywhere.
Like, lifting one is heavy, and they brought in hundreds.
Without like running water, without they had sort of the proper tools based on what they can get into this space. And, you know, they go from the one section where they were bringing it in through the security door to getting kind of pseudo busted to then going, all right, we're not going to do that. We're going to go this other way. Yeah. And we're going to go through like the bowels of the buildings kind of connecting to each other. But there's these little tiny spaces. Like, just going back to that, finding that space by, you know, wanting to kind of stick it to the man in some sort of way when you take away what was home, and now I'm going to take away part of your home and make it my home. It's just this very, just very American, old school American sticking it to the man story, which I really love. Totally.
It's a big, you know, F you to the man. And I loved that too. And also probably you and so many people like myself as well. Just I connected to this like sense of like exploration and like going into abandoned spaces and going through these weird places and buildings that aren't on blueprints and just are behind the facade, you know, and just I think that really appealed to them as what they were doing and finding those sort of strange places. And as you said, the only way that they were able to get in, they had different ways to get in, right, but they also had this like secret way that was through these like channels and the I-beams of the building, and they would have to like literally go and pancake themselves to get through these narrow channels. It was wild. And you see it all. They filmed it. It's bananas.
They're so far ahead of their time in wanting to film that and then not getting rid of it. Like, so many people film things and they throw it away or it gets lost at a move. And it didn't, you know, like you have so much of it there that, and you know what, watching it, you forget that it's not like the greatest quality of video, because the storytelling is so compelling. Watching it, hearing them talk about it, about them shopping at Goodwill and going to Home Depot and packing up the car with the cinder blocks. I mean, I fell in love with the story immediately.
Thanks. That's so awesome. Yeah. It's a reminder for all like the filmmakers or aspiring filmmakers that are listening or watching, you know, that it's not about like the technical quality. It's not about the 4K and all that. It's about the content, and they just captured the most incredible material, and they weren't even really trying that hard, you know? And I was the first person to see that footage in what I think was 15 years, and it was sitting in hard drives and sitting on SD cards, and nobody had seen it for like literally near 15, 16 years.
Oh, and it's just there, a treasure trove, right?
Yes, yes. So once I saw that, and when I started making the movie, I didn't even know there was going to be such amazing footage. I knew the story. It was Providence legend, and I knew that there was a couple photos and maybe some video, but I didn't know quite how much. And it isn't just of the secret apartment, of course. It's also all their other stuff that they're doing simultaneously, which is like equally fascinating.
The 9/11 project that they did, that was stunningly beautiful.
Stunning. Yeah. And they're doing all these projects, and also doing Michael's, the main character Michael's, doing these other bandit art projects, like that one in the sewers.
Yeah, before all the mall happened, right? This is the train tracks underground, where people have to roll through the, like, there's people who are mad that because it's now gone, that they never were able to see that because of how beautiful that was. But there's photos of it, which is incredible.
Yeah. So it's just wild. It's a wild story, but it also kind of connects on these deeper levels for people that connect. We all feel sort of powerless about development in our neighborhoods, and this, you see like them really respond in this very proactive but funny way, and you can't help but like root for them. It's wild.
Yeah, and they're so, again, far ahead of where we were perhaps maybe in 2020, when they realized that if they were not who they look like, when they got busted by security, things probably would have ended up different for them. And they say it on camera.
Yeah.
Like as if somebody was talking in 2020 after George Floyd, right? Like,
totally.
I was watching, I was like,
all
that's
realize that like this, the reason why they're able to do this and skate by, it has to do with, their white privilege. And it's really just astute. And just, you realize that they're aware of these issues as much as we are today. And it just, the movie offers all these kind of neat things about the timescape of this. And that's definitely one of them as well. Like how different it would be now if they tried this.
I imagine it was hard to get everything that you wanted into this documentary. I imagine there were things that were left out. They were like, that's a great story, but it just doesn't roll with what this version of the story we're telling. Did you find any of that to happen?
I mean, yes and no. I mean, in some ways, as you probably saw, the movie's like really packed with all kinds of asides and story tentacles, and goes in this direction, and you're like, where is this movie going? Why isn't it just staying in the mall? So it's going in all these directions, and hopefully viewers will realize that it all comes back to the secret apartment. It all is about the same thing. It's all connected. And I think that was my goal. So yeah, no, not really. I mean, there was a few things where they were, in the footage where they were like running around the mall at 3 a.m. alone. And I wanted to include
you haven't lived
that.
until you run around in a mall at 3 a.m. I've done it
Yeah, I
myself.
wanted to include that, but as we talked about, the footage was so low tech and low resolution that it was just a big black blob on screen. You couldn't really tell that it was, 3 in the morning and they were running around the mall. That was probably the only thing.
Yeah, it definitely had like this almost the first years of Real World from MTV vibe, along with like the Goonies meets like I just loved it, and it speaks to not only my generation. I feel like any generation that it feels a little pissed off that what they knew as home, somebody comes in with a suit and tells them, well, guess what? This isn't going to be your home anymore. We're tearing it down. And instead of like, they rebelled in the ways that they rebelled, they also rebelled within art. And it showed like this movie, this documentary, I'm sorry, it really reminds me, and I think it would remind people, that how important art is and how important expression is. Because, I mean, doing the tape art that he does, in children's hospitals, and bringing people together and bringing these core group of artists together to form this art project. I mean, at the end of the day, I think the movie asks itself a few times, is it an art piece or is this life imitating art? Like, what is this? But that's the beauty of art.
Yeah. And another thing that I really love about these guys, a lot of your viewers might just be like, oh, art, I don't care about. That's some pretentious thing that isn't have to do with the real world, or it's these artists trying to make money and get their stuff in museums. And it's literally like the opposite of that.
Yeah.
And it sort of reminds you, even if you don't think about art, I'm not somebody who walks around thinking about art, but it just kind of like brings those into the forefront where you're looking at, you're hearing these ideas and you're watching this, and you can't help but think like, oh wow, okay, this is beyond, there's more to this than just a prank. And you start realizing like the importance of art in our lives, even if you don't think about that, and why and how living your life in these ways is really inspirational and profound, and hopefully that also is a takeaway for people.
Absolutely. Just watching the part in the sewers that you mentioned earlier, the beginning stages of Michael's like public art display where it was like this another hidden thing that if you knew, you had to find it. There was no like, I mean, one of the people that you had talking was like, there was no written information. Nothing. It was for you to interpret on your own and find it on your own, and you had to work for it. Very much what the secret mall apartment is. You had to work for it. And I love the part at the end where he goes back and he tries. So I don't know. I don't want to ruin anything for people, but like, I love that part because that's the thing that I was like, I wonder if it's still there.
Sure.
Damn, is it still like, as a person, I'd be like, I gotta go check.
Sure, of course. I'm the same way as the filmmaker. I'm like, shouldn't we check if it's there? So yeah, without getting into spoilers, there's a cool scene at the end.
Yeah, very cool. A great documentary. It's
Thanks.
out now. And where could people find this outside of theaters, like eventually where it's going to hit streaming platforms and all that good stuff?
What's interesting, Tom, is we like really valued the theatrical experience with this movie. We started seeing like audiences love it. They don't usually get to go to a documentary in a theater. They don't usually get to like enjoy something really entertaining and fun, and where they're laughing out loud. So we were like, let's lean into this idea of a theatrical. Can we do this? So we're right now in like 125 theaters, as we speak. Oh, actually, we're going to be. Right now, I think we're in like 50 or so, and we're going to be in about 120. And people could go to secretmallapartment.com and see all the theaters. Of course, for us, a big date is in Chicago, where we're going to be at the Music Box Theater, opening on Friday, April 19th. And we're like so thrilled because like I know that there's a lot of themes in this movie that are going to resonate for people in Chicago. So we're really pumped about that.
Have you been to Music Box before?
I have. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's very cool theater.
We're in the big theater, and I'm going to come out and do Q&A. So if you have folks that are in Chicago, we'd love you to come say hi. And, it's a real like fun communal experience. It reminds you of like the days when you would go to the movies and discover this like weird little small movie and just be like, whoa, that's cool. So yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like how I felt when I saw Monster Squad in the theater. Then
totally.
people talk like, "What's Monster Squad?" I never heard of it. It's like Goonies, but like with vampires and stuff like
that.
Totally.
Everybody's got a movie like that. So
absolutely,
we're really embracing that.
And you talk about the Music Box in the neighborhood that it's in. That neighborhood that it's in has faced a lot of like regentrification.
Totally.
Hurdles and stuff like that, and further west, like all that west of there, all of that is happening right now. So I believe people very much will resonate with this.
When we started this movie, I kept on realizing like, hey, this isn't just a local Providence story. This is a story that so many people in so many cities and suburbs can relate to. And that's been really neat, is showing it across the country in Pittsburgh and in Columbus, Ohio, in Springfield, Missouri, wherever. And they're just like, wow, that I could really connect to this as well.
Yeah, I think a lot of people growing up of a certain age will remember when a mall opened and when their parents would complain that the mall's going to ruin like Main Street, whatever Main Street was
exactly.
for you, back then. And the irony of all of it is at the end of the movie, it talks about the mall struggles now.
Yes.
Like people don't want to go to malls anymore, which is just like, talk about a full circle moment. Now talk about putting apartments in that particular mall.
Incredible.
And that's what they're doing at every mall.
It's this kind of wild time lapse that you're seeing, in just like this 20-year nugget. It's really interesting. Yeah.
What was the favorite part for you in this whole process?
I think my favorite part was was kind of getting away from this kind of like real professional filmmaking thing that for years I've been doing, and just being like, F it, we're going to just do some crazy bonkers stuff. And I might even film some stuff where I might get caught by authorities. Let's do it. And
that was one of my questions. I'm like, I wonder if you did, or you just wink. Like, are you a believer and ask for forgiveness versus permission?
100%. Literally, that's my ethos as a filmmaker. So that being able to do that for an entire movie, and the fact that it was kind of justified for this story, because this is a story about these guys like sneaking into a mall and under the security and under authority, like doing this crazy thing. So it was really a way for me to kind of tap into that part of my psyche, and I just loved it.
Yeah, it's such a great ride. The entire, in learning about Providence and that area of the city, and the last big thing I'll ask you, the name of the place where the band was, the Thunder...
Fort Thunder.
Fort Thunder. That just, like, I feel like every city had a version of that.
Correct.
Chicago had it. They had warehouses all over the place. Hell, house music started because of those kind of buildings.
Correct.
Here
and
in Detroit
it's
and
so
Chicago.
interesting because, just as you said, Fort Thunder was like one of these like art collective warehouse weird living spaces in the middle of like these like industrial areas, and every city had these, all during the 90s and into the 2000s. And it's this really like vital part of like the kind of the culture and the counterculture of cities, and music and art. And what was interesting on this story was how one of those, this place called Fort Thunder, somehow connects to the secret apartment. And it's very neat, because I think, just as you said, a lot of cities can relate to that.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's hundreds of stories, maybe not quite like this, but a version of this in some way where people kind of just stand up to what they believe in through expression that is art. And that's what this wonderful story is. And I imagine getting to know Michael and some of the other artists was a lot of fun, because they seem like lovely people on top
They're
of it.
incredible
They just
people.
seem like great people.
I know it's like we're all cynical in this day and age to hear about like inspirational people, but these were 8 people that I just, I'll never forget them. They were so incredible and generous, and what they were doing with their day-to-day. They weren't trying to make money. They weren't trying to get acclaim. They just wanted to live their life in this very kind of intensely passionate, artistic way. And of course, do a crazy prank in the middle of the biggest mall in New England. You know what I mean? So I just love them all. I think they're really neat.
Yeah, for 4 years. Like,
yeah,
it wasn't for
4
4
years.
Days, 4
this
years.
Isn't like it went on for a few weeks. 4 years.
4 years. Secret Mall apartment opening here in Chicago at the Music Box this Friday, the 18th. Jeremy Workman, thank you so much for taking time to chat with me.
Oh, awesome. I had a blast, and maybe I'll meet some people when I'm out there on April 22nd at the Music Box as well.
Awesome.